All right. Hello, my name is Noelle, and today I will be presenting the STAT220 project for my group, which was myself, Hudson, Josh, and Will. All right, so first to start off with our research proposal. For our project, we used the Iowa liquor sales dataset. For our topic of interest, we wanted to look at the most popular brands and types of alcohol by location. Specifically, we were interested in whether college towns favor certain brands and types of alcohol because this would be useful information for marketers. It could help them target college towns, which are generally good markets for alcohol consumption, with the types of alcohol that those places are most interested in. All right, so first, a little explanation of our data set. Once again, the data set we used was Iowa liquor sales. This data set includes 24 variables and over 4 million observations, which are spread out over 24 columns and 25.1 million rows. The data set will include many variables like location, date, store, number, and count. The data is a representative sample of sale activity for alcohol in the United States and can be used to answer many questions thereof, like how much alcohol is sold and consumed in the United States? What kind? What are the most popular brands and labels? What are the most popular mixers? What is the distribution of prices paid in store? To name a few. The data is updated monthly and so remains up to date and will allow us to dig deeper into our own research question. All right, so the next thing we looked at, or the next thing I want to explain is the types of variables we had with this data set. So the data has factor variables and numerical variables, but could easily be converted from one to the other. Things like location, date, store number, and county are all factor variables, but if grouped together, they could be changed into numerical variables. How many sales in a certain town or in a certain time frame. You can also list numerical variables by which one is greatest and have them as factor variables. By using a mix of the two types of variables, the data can be best represented. By converting factor variables like county into numerical variables, we can compare the count of stores in a certain area to the amount of bottles sold, and instead of finding an overall most sold bottle, the data can be more precise with a store-to-bottle ratio, as well as a better comparison between cities within an area. All right, so did we use all of our data or just a subset? We planned to use just a subset of the data since there are so many, 4 million plus observations, like we said. Narrowing it down a bit will help us to analyze what we want to look at, which is the most popular brands and types of alcohol by location. We will then use this data to see if certain college towns favor certain brands and types of alcohol, or if there is any pattern associated with it. This will be great information for alcohol marketers to use, as the college age market is such a big one when it comes to the alcohol industry. The subset of data we will be using will be a combination of a few variables: the sales, county, number of stores, cost per volume, and type of alcohol. In this way, we will be able to determine which types and brands of alcohol are most popular in which locations and at what times. So, what variables are probably important? The variables that we initially thought were probably important were store name, city, category name, item description, bottle sold, and bottle volume. As we plan to cover most popular brands and types of alcohol by location, any variables related to either location or description of the alcohol itself were important to us. The city variable would tell us which sales are in college towns, and the store name variable will tell us where people are typically buying their alcohol. Category name tells us exactly what type of alcohol is being purchased most, i.e. wine or beer, and so on. And item description helps narrow down the data to the most popular brands and products. Bottles sold and bottle volume essentially give more information over the products sold, such as 6-packs or 12-packs, and which sizes of liquor bottles are most popular. All these variables will be used in determining the location of sales in college towns as well as which types of alcohol are sold. Alrighty. So next, we wanted to give insight into our process and procedure of obtaining our data. We obtained our data via a smaller subset of all the total data, which we accessed on the U drive. We then read this data into an R Markdown and began work tidying and cleaning it, narrowing it down to those variables we are most interested in for our research question. Our steps included the following: loading a smaller version of the dataset into an R Markdown and loading necessary libraries, capitalizing all county names to keep consistent, creating total sales per county, total bottles sold per county, number of stores per county, volume sold per county, and county number. And then we combined all these data sets into one tidy data set before renaming variables to make it tidy. Then we created average variable and a numerical data set. And then we made pairs and made our graphs. Next, we wanted to go into some of the problems we encountered with our project and the solutions we came up with to those problems. The first problem was just the size of our data set, which was very daunting to us mentally, as well as an issue in actually downloading and working with the data set. Our solution to that was working with the professor to get a smaller version of the same data set so that we could actually download and work with it. It was still quite large, though, and that large amount of data to deal with. We dealt with that by choosing a research question that only needed to look at a few key variables to be answered. Once we knew the variables we were actually interested in, we could clean the data set until it only included those which made it more workable and easy to understand and get results from. The next problem that we encountered was we were unable to include item descriptions in our data, and so we had trouble answering our research question fully in the end. Our solution to that was that we were able to see which counties had the highest sales, which allows us to see if college towns really do consume more alcohol and which ones consume the most more alcohol and which ones consume the most, which in and of itself is useful information still for marketers and we're satisfied with. If we ran the experiment again, however, we would then add the item description variable so that we can see specifically what brands and types of alcohol are most prevalent in those high consumption college towns and pass that information along to marketers. So next, we want to look at our graphs, which we have 3 of that we got from our data set. So the first graph we want to look at is sales by number of stores. And as observed, the more stores a country has, the more sales in dollars that county will have. This is to be expected. Counties with higher populations and college towns, such as Story County and Lynn County, tend to have more liquor stores and therefore will make more sales in dollars. However, number of stores may not always be the best predictor of sales. This is because some stores will inevitably perform better than others depending on location. 5 stores in Story County could sell the same amount as 6 stores in Lynn County, depending on business. This means that location has a closer relationship with sales, and therefore county is a better predictor, we found. Our next graph is sales by county. And in the case of sales by county, the larger the county's population, the more sales in dollars it will have. This is more difficult to observe in our visualization as counties are numbered. However, one can expect the outlier near county number 75 to be Iowa's largest and most populous county, Polk County. This makes county a good predictor of alcohol sales by itself. Finally, we have our sales by volume graph. In the case of this graph, the higher the volume sold, the higher the sales in dollars, which is also to be expected. As seen here, a vast majority of the data points lie on the lower end of volumes sold, which indicates that people are likely buying their alcohol in smaller volumes, such as beer, shooters, and wine coolers. Our conclusion of this is that alcohol sales are more dependent on county itself instead of the number of stores or volumes sold. So finally, our findings and future ideas. First, to start with our findings, we see that county has the lowest AIC and CV so it is the best representation of total sales compared to the number of stores in the area and the amount of volume sold. We found that county is the best predictor of sales, and our next step would be how good of a predictor of sales item description is, which goes along with our future ideas, which is that, as we talked about earlier, our initial research question ended up being different from what we were able to answer. In the future, we would refocus in on item description variable in depth. So if we ran the experiment again, we would then add that item description variable so that we can specifically see what brands, types of alcohol are most prevalent in those high consumption college towns and pass that information on to marketers. However, what we did find is still useful information for marketers, and we can still pass that along.